Welcome to the Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm Steven Shomler, your host. Today finds me once again out here at the Oregon coast. I tell you, I absolutely love the Oregon coast. It's one of the most beautiful places in the United States. If you want to see all of my Oregon coast-centric content, be it culinary podcasts, travel articles, food articles, or craft beer podcasts, go to adventuresontheoregoncoast.com. Today finds us in beautiful downtown Mohler. Some people go, where the heck is Mohler, Oregon? It is just off 101. If you're coming from the north, you come into Nehalem, go past Nehalem and head out 53, just a little tiny bit. You get to Nehalem Bay Winery. If you're coming from the south, you drive up 101, you go through Wheeler, and you head down 53. And a lot of people say 53. Yeah, you can take 53 all the way. It goes up to 26. Just past the winery is a bridge, and you can take a right and head down. Was it that Miami Creek Road, Foley Creek Road? And that goes the back way to Tillamook. This is absolutely beautiful, and I just feel happier than the blind acorn that's found a squirrel, because I have been coming here since 2004, just for fun. I still remember the first time I drove out. I came down 53. It made me a little sick to my stomach the first time. It's a windy road. I came just a fun, different way, and there's a winery. And it was a winter day, and they were open, and that seemed crazy to me, and we had fun, and there was this crazy guy pouring wine that told these stories, and I heard the legend of someone, Ray Shackelford. And all the times I've been here since, I have never encountered Ray Shackelford in the flesh. I stopped by yesterday. He's here, he's in town, and he's our guest. My special co-host is Melissa Stetzel. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing great. It's beautiful today.
And we did do a podcast with you because you part of helping the team make the magic happen at Nehalem Bay Winery. But we've got the one and only Ray Shackelford in the flesh. Ray, good morning. It's delightful to have you on the podcast.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to get to share people your story because it's an amazing, entertaining story. You do a lot of things, given my journey, that are near and dear to my heart. We've got wine. I mean, what more can you want? So questions ask everybody in all my podcasts. Where were you born?
I was born in Baxter Springs, Kansas.
And where did you go to high school?
I went to high school over in Forest Grove.
And what's the mascot there?
The Forest Grove Vikings.
Forest Grove Vikings. Now, I don't want to tell all of your geographic journey because that would take hours. It's an amazing, fun story, but just a few little things that I think kind of inform some of the cool stuff you did related to the winery, because we're kind of telling your winery story and then some of your amazing adventures will weave in. But you did spend some time in the military. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I was in the military, got drafted back in December the 31st, 1964. I got there and spent the New Year's Eve at the reception station. It's a way to start out a new year. And then I went to basic AIT, and then I was chosen to go to Officer Candidate School, became a second lieutenant and officer in the artillery, and then went to Vietnam and spent from January the 1st in Vietnam till April of 71 in Vietnam, and interspersed with 3 times in hospitals for getting wounded, gunshot wounds and hand grenade, and in Japan and the United States.
First, I want to thank you so much for your service. We just celebrated a Memorial Day, and near and dear to my heart, one of my convictions is freedom is not free. My grandfather served on the battleship Tennessee, in the Pacific Theater in World War II, and I just know that people that fought for freedom is a really precious thing. So I don't want to come across that I minimize that all. I'm very, very grateful. But what kind of went through my head when you were talking is you'd get wounded, they'd ship you off to Japan, fix you up, and put you right back out on the front lines.
No, I volunteered for every minute that I spent in Vietnam.
So they'd fix you up and you head right back out.
Well, but I volunteered for it.
Oh.
Just like I volunteered to go to Starbucks. It's rather exciting.
Well, I am so
for a guy that had been in Cuba in 1958, it just kept that excitement going, and I ended up being in prison in a Batista Army jail in 1958 at 18 years old. So I've been doing stuff a long time.
I'm glad you got out. But that time in Vietnam, you're in Southeast Asia. And it's each country down there is different, but there's some similarities. Some of the weather, some of the things are similar. And you kind of like that neck of the woods, that part of the world.
Yeah, I do.
Yep. Speaking of some of your travels, you visited just a handful of countries. How many countries have you visited?
About 154.
150.
That's how many.
including North Korea.
Including North Korea, just about 4 years ago.
What are some of the countries that stick out that for you are a lot of fun that you love?
Well, I like Belize a lot, the Philippines, of course, and I like that area, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, that area.
Yep.
A lot too. And then Central America, spent a lot of time in Central America. In fact, I've hitchhiked all through Central America as an adult, meaning in the last 30 years.
I love that. Okay. So your journey, you've moved around a lot of different places. You've lived a lot of different places in the world, but I want to go back in time to 1991. You're living in, if I have my story right, Gun Barrel City, Texas. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And what were you doing professionally in Gun Barrel City, Texas in 91?
I owned a real estate company, and I was teaching college at Trinity Valley Community College part-time, and I was also building houses.
You were busy. And one of the places...
Very busy.
One of the places you taught in colleges, you taught in prisons.
Yeah, I taught for the college. They had 4 contracts with 4 different prisons. And so I would go down there 2 nights a week, 1 class in 1 prison, and drive over to another prison on Tuesdays, and then Thursdays, 1 class at 1 prison, and drive over to another prison.
I spent, professionally, as some of my listeners know, I spent roughly, before I do what I do now, 10 years in the... I spent 10 years in the corporate banking world. I spent 10 years in the 10 years plus in the nonprofit world. And one of the things I did at the time when I was up in Olympia, Washington area is we'd head out to McNeil Island Federal Penitentiary, and I would speak out there. So a little bit of what it's like to do some serving in some prisons. And all of the serving you've done just makes my heart sing. We'll get to that. It's just fantastic. But something tough happened in 91. You're in Gun Barrel City, Texas, and you have to come back to Forest Grove and tell us that story.
Yeah, my father passed away in Forest Grove, so I came up here and was taking care of things at the house, and it was depressing being at the house there with my mother had died 4 years earlier, and it was just depressing there. So I took a drive over towards the coast, and I stopped at Saddle Mountain and hiked up Saddle Mountain. Then I went on over had a beer at the Bridge Tender there in Seaside. I decided to go on. I went down to Bill's in Cannon Beach and decided to go on, and I came all the way to Manzanita to the
Bayside Gardens, right?
The Bayside Gardens back at that time.
It's the lighthouse now in Manzanita.
It's the Manzanita Lighthouse now, still very popular. And then had 1 beer there with a bunch of guys that were a whole family here, one of the big families here in the valley, here in the Nehalem Valley, the Grimes brothers, good guys, all of them. And then went on from there. I went down to the River Sea Inn
in Wheeler.
Just
down the road from here.
On the bay. And I met Pat McCoy, and he was singing the woes about he was broke and the business wasn't good, and he didn't want to be here. He wanted to be in Hollywood because he did voiceovers.
So I'm gonna make up a day for purpose of storytelling. Let's just say it was a Wednesday afternoon, and you do all this different places for beers. You find yourself down at the Riverside Inn in Wheeler and on a Wednesday afternoon, and you meet Pat McCoy for the first time in your life. And he's telling you all the things he wants to do, and he mentions that he owns a winery.
Yeah, he mentions that, and I said, and he needed money, and I said, well, what will you sell me the winery for? And I'd never been here, didn't know anything about wine, and he says, I don't know, $2,500, I'll give you half interest in the Blue Sky. Which means half interest in basically nothing if there is nothing there.
Right.
And so I had a little bit of cash in my pocket, and I said, okay, and I'll go out tomorrow and I'll buy half interest in all your stock. I might have to go to the bank then. But anyway, and so we did, and we did.
So you right there, sitting at the bar over a beer.
Not a beer. Come on. It takes more than that.
So a few beers, you gave him, go ahead.
And one of the important things about that is our waitress at that time was a girl named Carmen Quintana. And anyway, that's important because she was my first employee a few days later. And she is the person that helped really build the winery because she was a phenomenal salesperson.
Now, the winery that you gave $2,500 to buy half of the Blue Sky for in 1991 is Nehalem Bay Winery, and it existed since 74. But 74 to 91, no disrespect to anybody that was involved in running, it just wasn't much of a going concern. It existed, but not much of a going concern. Do I have that right?
But yeah, it was here, and the people that came here really liked it.
Yes, strong fan base, but not a lot of fans, not a lot
very
of growth.
many at all.
Yeah, and not many wine sales.
Not very many at all.
Yep.
That's why he wanted to get rid of it and be in Hollywood.
So the next day, and I'm making up the day because I don't know, but let's say Thursday morning, you wake up and you head out to see the winery you've bought half of.
That's right.
And what did you think when you pulled up?
Well, I just came up and it was a mess. There was this whole area that you're looking at right now out here was all blackberries. There was nothing here. The patio wasn't here. It wasn't painted. It was really sort of ugly. But I could see some potential. And Patrick said, "Hey, would you take care of things while I take off?" And so he left me here, and I had never done the machine for credit cards. I'd never even done one, and it was all by hand back then, nothing electronic. And I did the first couple upside down until one of my customers told me how to use it properly. and I sold more that afternoon in sales, more than he had ever sold in one day.
And what's fun is I can't tell you, I got to meet you for the first time in my life yesterday, and it all came together. I mean, I'd heard the legend, a positive, wonderful legend of Ray Shackelford, but when I met you, it was really fun because the steak matched the sizzle, and it's like, I will buy stuff from that guy because you have a genuine enthusiasm. You know, some people can sell stuff because they're kind of shysters. You've been around those kind of salespeople, but I just know you have because of your journeys. But there are people that are genuinely enthusiastic, and they promote things they authentically love, and you can't help but just kind of join them on their passion and say, okay, yeah, let's do stuff. Let's drink wine. Let's do whatever. And it's a gift you have. You kind of have that magnetic personality.
I've pretty much, excuse me, I've pretty much been a salesman all my life. I mean, always from a kid.
Yep. But for you, it's because you're sharing about things you love that you're excited about.
Well, and have to make a living.
You have to make a living. Yep. I totally, sales can be a very noble profession. Okay. So 1991, you have that winery. And a tradition started in 91 that we're going to talk about. But to talk about the tradition, we have to we're going to go back in time from 91 to roughly 76 to 79. During that time in your life, about 10, 13 years prior to 91. No, is that 10 years? My math, who knows? But you're living in Portland, Oregon. And one of the things you do is you remodel a place that's gone now, the Candlelight. Now, there is a cool Candlelight on Powell that's a great dive bar now, but this is a different Candlelight. You remodeled that working in construction, and then you'd go to this bar and hang out. And who did you meet?
Well, I met this guy named Norman Sylvester. Well, I met him because he was playing blues with his band there all of the time or quite frequently. And so that first year when I was here in 91, after I'd taken over the winery, I had him come out.
Somebody you'd met in 76, 77, 78, 79, you become friends with through the Candlelight. You got a hold of Norman and said, Norman.
Well, Joe Shore suggested to me when I was in town that I have music out here, and then he talked to Norman, and he told Norman he ought to come out here and play for me. And so I said, okay, let's do it. What do I do? I didn't know what to do.
So just for
Just
fun.
have fun.
Who was the first person that did a concert here?
I think it was... I might need some help on this. I forget.
Beth and the Crackpots?
The Crackpots.
Oh, Beth. Yeah, Beth Basil. And the
Basile.
Crackpots.
And the Crackpots.
The very first.
And almost every year since 91, because you did have her. She did the first concert, which is fun. And your fans, I know because I run into them, they are crazy passionate about the concerts you do out here. Beautiful setting. They love it. But almost every year since 91, pandemic excluded, Norman Sylvester's come out here and done a concert.
Every single year until
2020.
the pandemic.
Yeah, 2020, when I say it, it almost feels like I'm cussing. Literally, it's just kind of a weird thing. Yeah. But what I'm excited is that he's back and coming back in 2021. You're going to do another concert.
Yep.
And he's an incredible blues artist. I used to host an FM radio show in Portland, Oregon, and I played Norman Sylvester music.
Yeah.
I love him, and it's so cool that you had that relationship, and it worked out that he could be here. Now, Melissa, when did you come on the scene around here?
I was joined the crew here at the winery in about 1999. Prior to that, I was living in Portland, and guess who one of my favorite acts to go see around town was back then? The Boogie Cat, Norman Sylvester.
That's right,
he
the
and I were
Boogie Cat.
friends because we share a birthday. So I used to go to gigs at the Candlelight and some of his other gigs. I saw him at a winery. I saw him at Oak Knoll Winery after I had just barely turned 21. So we have some history as well.
And one of the things that you do here to make the magic happen is you love the concerts. You help make the concerts happen.
Absolutely.
Last year was a tough year for you. No concerts, no
oh my
events,
gosh,
love
it was
festivals.
lonely and sad out here. Yeah. Moving right along.
So in 91, let's go back in time to 91. You've got concerts, you've got a lot of cool stuff going on. But what were the two most popular wines back in 91 that you guys had back then?
Probably the Pinot and the Blackberry. Pinot Noir and Blackberry.
Blackberry. And they had quite a few. When you took over the winery in 91, they had quite a few fruit wines.
Yes.
And now today, Melissa, most popular wine is still the...
Pinot and Blackberry.
And there's still a lot of fruit wines.
We do. It's a
And
lot of
so
fruit wines.
the silly question, but some people need to hear this. Why did you keep the fruit wines?
Because it was unusual for most wineries in Oregon. Just a very few wineries had them, and people liked them. You know, they actually liked them, and they were easy to sell.
And people do love them. And you've got, we'll get toward the end of this podcast, talk about the generations of fans that love it. But what are some of your favorite fruit wines, Melissa? Because I know you love some of those fruit wines.
I am a peach lover through and through, so the peach wine is my absolute favorite.
I have to admit, I love Thanksgiving and Christmas, so I'm kind of partial to the cranberry. And there's one near and dear to my heart that I just remembered, like, I had that one. Like years ago, you used to make like a Black Forest or something like that cake wine. Is that right?
A chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate cake.
Chocolate
Black
Pinot
Forest.
with a little hint of cherry, so it's kind of like meant to be sort of like a Black Forest cake.
Yeah, I remember that one. You guys got to bring that back someday. I'm going to advocate for that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I think it's a good idea, too.
We're working on it. Let's
Melissa.
see what we can do.
Okay, so the next part of your story, roughly, go ahead.
One of the things we did with the Black Forest, remember Goethe? And we used to, Goethe is from Germany. And remember, I used to wear lederhosen.
Yeah, and
I used to. I was
Oktoberfest.
at one of my trips to Germany. I bought some lederhosen, brought them back, and we had
An Oktoberfest.
At the Oktoberfest with the Black Forest.
Yeah,
With
love that.
Goethe, our good friend who has now passed away, but she's from Germany and was a great believer here.
So we've had some fun debate before the podcast about where you actually live, because in my world, you live on the road basically because you love to travel. You've traveled a lot of places and done a lot of traveling. I think Melissa suggested you actually live on an airplane because you spent a lot of time on a plane. But in roughly 2000, you headed off on a trip and you went to Cambodia. Roughly 2000, and you had you met a young man, and his name is Elephant, right?
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
Yeah, I was over in Cambodia it was in the late 90s, and it was with a girl that worked here originally, and she worked here part-time. She just graduated from college, and we were traveling and together, because she hadn't been any place, and I said, I'll show you some places, and we met Elephant Chan Kim Ling in Phnom Penh. He was
And that's his name. Tell us his name again.
Chan Kim Ling.
But is Elephant also part of what he goes?
Elephant is his nickname.
Nickname, okay.
Because he's tough, real tough. He was a kickboxer, and all of the other moto drivers later on, he was a cyclo driver, and then I helped him get a moto so he could be a moto driver. But all of them wouldn't take his customers because he'd knocked them out of them. But anyway, and I went to his village for he and his wife and his two daughters at that time. He had a son later. And it was so poor. They're Benong people. They belong to one of the indigenous tribes, which there are many tribes in most countries in the world. And one of the problems there are in the world in these different countries because of the tribal. Most places are still tribal today, even.
Yep.
And his tribe is the Benong tribe, and it's very poor, and not helped at all by the government. The government creates problems for them and still does. But anyway, and I says, what can I do here to help? And he says, build a school. I'm the only person that's ever gone to school here. You know, he's the first person that went to high school in that village, the first person in the whole area that went to college, and he ended up getting his law degree, and I helped all of the way. But anyway, so we built a school immediately. Like the next day we started building it, literally.
And so over the next 5, 6, 7 years, you build a school, you start supporting an orphanage.
He said, I says, is there anything else that needs to be done? And this was a little bit later.
Yep.
You know, this is a little bit later that we started the orphanage, because he had started working with a real big NGO, of which he is the executive director of. It's a NGO called Sharing Foundation, and it's a huge NGO that he directs in Cambodia and does a lot of good. Really, they have just really a good organization.
And another thing you would do is you'd work with local craftsmen out of Southeast Asia, and they would make cool stuff, and you'd bring it here and sell it at the winery.
Yeah, well, what we did is I like the purses, and so I brought some here, and I said to Elephant, I says, well, why don't we have the ladies in the village make the purses? And he says, what? And I said, yeah, well, just buy some sewing machines, bring them out here, and get somebody from the city, pay them to come up here and teach the girls, the women how to sew. And so we did. You know, and a couple of the women said, you know, I make more money now than my husband has ever made in a year.
Wow. So you're doing all this good work, and you're running in Southeast Asia, and you're running a winery here in Mohler, just outside of Nehalem, a Nehalem Bay Winery, and the Oregonian shows up. And she wrote an article. And roughly what year was that?
07?
07?
Lori Tobias came out.
Approximately 07.
Yeah, came out, and they wrote an article about all the cool stuff you're doing. Front page story.
It was a front page story with a big picture. You know?
And it said that you're just kind of out there, kind of in my world from the nonprofit journey. And I mean, no offense by this, but you're kind of out there on it, just winging it, doing stuff. Like somebody needs a school built, we'll build a school.
That's right.
And just making it happen, which is impressive.
Well, I think at that time had the floods happened in New Orleans then.
Katrina, that was
Katrina,
around that
that
time
might have
period.
been later something, but like for Katrina, I personally I drove down to Katrina to work 3 weeks in Katrina. When the earthquakes happened in Haiti, I flew down to Dominican Republic and then went by land across to Haiti and helped in Haiti. I just do stuff.
You just do stuff. But it's kind of cool to have some little bit of organization and make it easier for other people to help you on your journey. And a stranger, a gentleman named Bob Fields, read the article in the Oregonian, and he showed up and said, hey, I want to give money, but you need to have a 501c3 because then I can get a tax deduction. Is that close to accurate?
That's absolutely accurate.
So what did you do? You thought, that's a good idea. How did it happen? How'd that unfold?
Well, I called the IRS. And I find it, back then you could get people on the phone, and then I told me what to do, and I got my grandson Travis, who runs the Depot Bay operation. I got him on the computer since I didn't know how to do stuff, and still don't. I'm a dinosaur, but anyway, and he did it, and I wrote down the stuff, and he typed it in, and then I stapled pictures of everything. They asked, how about, I said, we have an orphanage here, and it's doing this, this, and this, and I stapled pictures of that. I says, we have a farming project over here, and I stapled pictures of the farming project. And we have a school here, and I stapled pictures of the school, partially built and finished, and then the students in it, all these staples all over this application to the IRS, and I sent it in.
And what happened then when they got it?
They looked at it, and they approved it immediately, and we had it back. And I think it was 7 days later, we got the application back approved. And then on the next week, I happened to be here, and the guy that had signed it, anyway, he called and asked for me. He said, Ray Shackelford. I said, yeah, this is Ray. He says, I'm the person that approved your 501c3, and I just want you to know that it's the fastest we've ever approved an application. It was approved that day because I sent it to my boss, who sent it to the boss, who sent it to the person in charge of all of the IRS 501c3s, and they couldn't believe that you had stapled all this stuff on, so there's no question.
Well, a lot of people, when they start a 501c3, they talk about what they hope to do. And then they got to make sure that seems some legitimate. You're saying, oh, I'm actually already doing it.
And one of the things about my 501c3 is that there has never, ever been a penny of money that has been donated, that has been used for any of my personal expenses, flying, sleeping, eating, drinking, or anybody else's, or any administration cost, not a penny. 100% of it goes to the different projects we do. And now they are in Rwanda, Tanzania, Cambodia, and the Philippines. And if something happens someplace and I happen to be there, I might put that on the list too. But those are where money goes on a monthly basis now, basically.
So I want to circle around to that guy, Bob Fields, that was the spark for you getting this done. You were able to call him or email him or talk to him or whatever and say, hey, we're a 501c3. Did he start donating?
Yeah, he's the largest donor since that time. He donates on a monthly basis.
He still does. Wow, that's amazing.
And he has introduced. That's how we got started in Tanzania, was because of Bob. And he had a debate team from Tanzania studies. They were debating at Reed College in an international debate tournament, and this team stayed with him. And one of the ladies, one of the girls there, by the way, who just finished college and would love to go to school at Pacific University to study physical therapy, but we don't have the money for that. It's pretty expensive. And so if anybody is listening to this wants to help with sending her to Pacific University, it'd be cool.
So, Melissa, it's the Anyway Foundation.
It's the Anyway Foundation. The website is anywayfoundation.org. And if you want to make a donation to help these people, you can go right to the website. And the first thing you will see on the homepage is a PayPal symbol that you can click on and make donations.
And they get
Super
get
easy.
a tax deduction.
You get a tax deduction, yes. And you can come here to the winery if you want. You can mail checks here.
And I'm going to put a link on. So if someone wants to, they want to see pictures of the winery, they want to see pictures of legendary Ray Shackelford, they can go to www.culinarytreasurepodcast.com. And I'm going to put big writing the links to the nonprofit because I love it. And so I just want to be really clear. If people hear this podcast and they love you or they love the wine, maybe they didn't know about the winery, or maybe they've never heard of you and they've never heard of the winery. I have listeners all over the world, but they're enthralled with the nonprofit. If they go donate to the nonprofit, is that okay with you, Ray?
Yes, that would be great. It will make them feel good to help people in these foreign countries.
I've given a lot of time in my life serving others, and so it just warms my heart what you do. I can't tell you how much it touches me.
The Anyway Foundation was it's a poem that was on Shishnu Bhavan, which is Mother Teresa's project, one of her projects in India. And it was a thing, like help people, and they may say discouraging things to you, help them anyway. And there's all kinds of things, but do it anyway.
That's beautiful. I love that. I wonder where the name came from. That is fantastic. It must be incredibly fulfilling to you to think about the lives you've changed, the children you've helped, the people you've served. That's an incredible legacy.
Yeah, it makes me feel good.
It should. I think I know you don't do it for those reasons. I know just being around, who you are, I just feel what radiates off of you. It's not for the praise, for someone to say, great job, but someone needs to say it, great job. And it's pretty amazing. It's quite a beautiful thing.
Thank you. The real reason I do it is because I'm very selfish. I do things I want to do, pretty much always. I very seldom do things I don't want to do, and I want to do this, so I do it.
And one of the fun things that some people know and some people don't know about the winery is that when someone buys wine here, they are helping the Anyway Foundation because the winery contributes to the Anyway Foundation. That's pretty amazing.
By far, the largest contributor to the Anyway Foundation is myself, through the winery.
And what's fun is, I don't know if you're aware of this, there are some wine snobs out there. And some of them, they're not going to drink no fruit wine. That's just a reality. But I have met legions of people that love your fruit wine. And for them, not only do they get the joy of the fruit wine, they get to make a difference. And so to any wine snobs out there, I would encourage you to there's a lot of great wineries around in the area in Oregon, but take a trip out to the Oregon coast, check out the Nehalem Bay Winery, and just have fun with it and realize that if you do pick up a bottle of that blackberry, and that blackberry is made with what?
All blackberries.
All blackberry. And I know
100%.
some wine snobs like, I ain't getting no blackberry wine. Get the blackberry wine, give it to someone that you know that will love it, and you've made a difference, kind of making a roundabout contribution to an amazing nonprofit. And this is a beautiful setting. I'm telling you, this is a beautiful setting out here. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Now, Travis is your grandson.
Yes.
Melissa, Travis is your son.
My son.
So that means we got. I'm not the sharpest knife in the door, but I'm not the dullest either. So that's 1, 2, 3 generations involved in the winery. Travis is part of the business. How does it feel to have generations of your family now involved in this winery that you gave $2,500 for, half of the blue sky in '91?
Well, I think it's cool, and we're serving people now that I served back then, that are the grandchildren, or they're bringing their grandchildren here, and they're soon will be serving them.
That's what I've seen is you guys are multi-generational making the winery work, your family, but then your fans have families that are multi-generational where people are coming here to buy wine to ship off to grandma because, she remembers the rhubarb and the rhubarb is available, or she remembers her grandma loves the blackberry, and you've got generations of fans, which I think is just a really beautiful story. You've seen it, Melissa, right?
Yeah. Just the other day, I had a gal that was the last time I was here. I was a little kid running around outside while my parents were inside having wine. So it's pretty cool.
How much fun.
Yeah.
And I got to give a shout out, by the way. I recently spent some time down at Depot Bay and saw Travis in action. And he must have your genes because he was doing a phenomenal job and so sincere and telling about the wine. I'm like, sign me up for 4 of those bottles. You must be so proud of him. I can't imagine.
He's a big case seller, man. A lot of people come here and buy a case. A lot of people, they get a really good buy when they buy a case, a really good buy.
And I don't know if you realize it, but if in my world, from where I sit, what luck is the residue of preparation. I think that's what some people say. And other people say you make your own luck. But somewhere you got to be one, in my world, from where I sit, I think you'll agree, you're just one lucky dog because in my head, my crazy head, you've been kind of living on the road since roughly 2000. You're gone a lot doing really cool things. And Melissa has been here helping make the magic happen. How amazing to have someone as gifted and talented as her who gets the big picture, who gets the vision, who loves the business and loves the people.
I agree totally. Talking about luck and so forth. He worked by day and toiled by night. He gave up play and some delight. He plodded on. Dry books he read, new things to learn. He plodded on with faith and pluck. And when he won, men called it luck. It's a poem I wrote many, many years ago when I worked with the Fuller Brush Company knocking on doors. And
Cool.
I love that poem. That's
Very cool.
fantastic. And have you ever been to the Astoria Seafood Festival, right?
Yeah, we do that one every year.
I mean, but Ray, have you been to that one?
oh, of course.
And then what's
I started it.
Newport.
Newport Seafood and Wine Festival.
Yeah,
We've
and
been
then you have
attending each year.
Yeah, I've seen Melissa at these festivals. And she is happier than a pig in mud at those festivals. She sees people that she's seen before. They love her. They buy tons of wine. I just want to mention that because so many of your fans have connected with you either here at the winery. A lot of your fans have connected with you just having your wine shipped everywhere across the country. They can get wine. You ship wine right off your website to places. And then another group of your fans connect with you at those events. And they so look forward to those events, look forward to seeing your stuff. They always know they're going to get a bottle of this or a bottle of that. And I just think it's amazing how you've got these legions of fans that connect in those 3 different ways. Oh, and then the 4th group of time people connect is the people that get to come out here for the various concerts and events you have on site. It's just kind of enchanting to me, all those different ways people connect.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's fun. It really is fun.
All right, so let's drink some wine and talk about some of this wine we're going to drink. Which one should we start off with, Melissa? You've picked some of Ray's favorites.
While you're picking it, I want to say something.
You go ahead.
To everybody, remember, everyone can help someone in some way every day.
I'll drink to that. We just opened a Gewürztraminer.
Okay.
This is Ray's favorite white.
Yeah, it's my favorite one.
Currently.
Currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect that
You can change your mind sometimes.
things
of what you-
cycle through. Like for me, I like this one better. And so I'll drink and you guys tell us about this wine. Cheers.
Cheers.
It tastes good. I like it. Melissa, tell them about something. That's what I know
Well, the
about
grapes
it.
are grown over in the Willamette Valley. We've got the family that our winemaking crew that are over there outside of Salem. And I believe this bottle is probably from 2019, but it's a non-vintage.
And a lot
white.
of people know this, but some people don't. Gewürztraminer, it's a grape.
It is.
It's not an uncle that lived next door and his last name. It's an actual grape, and you grow that grape, and just a fun white wine.
It's
Melissa,
really floral and delicious. I haven't had any of this for a while, but I like it.
Yeah, it's
So
good.
what food-wise, anything you particularly like to do with this one?
We sell a lot of it at Thanksgiving. Everybody wants to have Gewürztraminer on the Thanksgiving table with the turkey.
Oh, I like that idea.
It could be served with spicy foods because it's got that real light floral, it kind of complements spicy foods.
Yeah, and crab fettuccine is kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Crab risotto.
Seafood.
I think seafood and some risotto, some white sauce. I think it'd be great with that. All right, and what's the next one?
I think we will move along to the Pinot Noir.
Okay. Now, isn't it? It's a legal requirement, Ray. I think the truth is, if I'm right, it's legally required that when you have a winery in Oregon, you have to have a Pinot Noir, right? Isn't that the law?
Yeah,
It seems like it.
you better. You're in trouble.
But you of the reds, this is one of your favorites. Of the Nehalem Bay Winery Reds, the Pinot Noir is one of your favorites. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. So this is our 2017 Pinot.
Nice. And what fun food stuff do you do with this one?
Oh, smoked salmon, any fish on the grill. Again, Thanksgiving. We always drink Pinot at Thanksgiving.
So while we're talking about food, one of the fun things that's happened in the past and probably will again is when you do your music concerts, it's roughly a Saturday afternoon and people come here and they get to see a concert, and then you often have barbecue.
We have a buddy that's been coming out here and helping us for many years. His name is Hollis Harris.
Hollis is just phenomenal.
He's amazing. His company is called Porter's Catering, and they started out at Saturday Market. They used to barbecue down there, ribs and chicken and stuff down at Saturday Market in Portland when it first started. He's worked at many restaurants, and now he's got his own catering gig.
That's
that he
how
does.
we met him, was down there.
Yeah.
Saturday Market.
We've
We
been
used to
friends
be there.
forever, and we always kind of talked about, gosh, it would be nice to have you come out and do the food, because we used to do all of the food ourselves, and
That's craziness
that
right
was a
there.
lot of work and a lot of labor and a lot of expense. So we kind of teamed up maybe 10, 12 years ago, and he's been coming out and doing the food, and
And I mention that because for some of your fans that connect through the concerts, for them to be sit here seeing someone on your outdoor stage doing music and having a glass of wine and a cool breeze and enjoying Hollis's barbecue, that's like the whole experience for them.
that's all of
And
it.
then
yeah.
they load up a couple cases and head home.
Yeah. Yeah. So Hollis has quite a following that he has established here and at some of his other gigs. He's partners in a restaurant down in Puerto Vallarta that we've all visited. Him down there. It's called El Rio Barbecue Bar.
But what's so cool down there, there's a little stream right behind it, down the little hill from his
It's a river.
restaurant. That's a little river there, and it's really shallow. And we put a table down in the river and the chairs, and they served food to us while we were sitting in the river.
That was
at a table
cool.
and
That was a
chairs.
memorable day.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it.
So I suspect that you have friends in every country you visited.
Well, not every country, but a lot of countries
Oh, I don't know.
that I keep in touch with. Like, it's on my phone constantly. I'll have people from 4 or 5 different countries on here. I mean, just every day,
So I do two things, Ray. One, if you want to pour us the blackberry, we'll close with that. But Ray, I
right.
do two things. One, I'm a culinary storyteller. And the other is that I'm a life story alchemist. I help people transform their life story from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Like in the medieval times, where alchemists could transmute an ordinary metal like lead into an extraordinary one like gold. And one of the things I teach people a lot and encourage people, and I have a mug that says it, and it's become near and dear to my heart as I've been blessed to build a life I love, is go live the life you imagine. And I think it's kind of a riff on Henry David Thoreau. I think you embody exactly someone doing that.
Yep. I tried to do that. Walt Whitman is one of my favorite characters. His picture is right up there on the wall.
What about Walt speaks to your heart?
Take to the open road.
Nice.
Take to the open road. That I think is you in a heart. Am I right? Does that not symbolize you exactly?
Absolutely. And on that
Leaves
note, let's
of
have some
grass.
blackberry. Cheers.
Oh,
Walt
yes.
Whitman,
Oh, this tastes
Ray
so good.
Shackelford,
Yeah.
Steven Shomler,
Steve,
Nehalem Bay
thank you so much
Winery.
for being here. Enjoy.
Oh, it's just a delight. And what do we do with the blackberry?
Oh man, it's so good.
Drink it.
That is ridiculous.
We just drink it.
It is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but
Okay. Well, I've got to tell you, the people that like the dry wines, and they have somebody in the family that likes a sweet wine, you take a little bit, take your glass and put a little bit of blackberry in the Pinot, and most Pinots lovers like it also. That was introduced to me here by a German traveler that came through, and he says, hey, try this. And so we did, and we tried it with several of other sweets, and it is phenomenal. With
I have
Pinot
something to
Noir.
add too.
okay.
For a couple of years, there was a blues event up at the KOA in Warrenton, Oregon, put on, and it was called Blues by the Sea. We did the wine up there. That was one of the first times that we had kind of connected with Hollis. He was up there cooking. Well, we had a snow cone booth next door. So we got the snow cones, and we made adult snow cones with blackberry wine on them. That was kind of like a little secret. We were doing that with the snow cone people and us and Hollis and a few of the select few that were in on it. So that was pretty cool.
But
That's good, though. I've had the snow cone with the
Yeah.
blackberry. It is
Yeah.
good.
Sounds amazing. I've been blessed to have hoity-toity wine, some of the best wines in the world and all over the world, and I absolutely love wine. And blackberries are phenomenal. And if you haven't been to Oregon and you don't understand blackberries, Oregon blackberries are the best. And I'm telling you, I don't care what your wine preference is, whether you're, a hoity-toity wine drinker or you're happy you just enjoy a good wine. This blackberry is phenomenal.
It is so good.
It tastes like a blackberry, but the only way you can make a blackberry better is to alcoholize it. I make up a word there because I love alcohol with everything, and this is just phenomenal. In all seriousness, cheers to you guys for keeping the tradition going and doing it. And there's a reason this is the bestseller, and it's fun as can be. And I think I probably want some cheesecake with my blackberry wine.
Yeah,
I think I would love that.
I want to mention, too, that our honey mead is phenomenal. A lot of people like different meads and beer and alcohol and wine, but our honey mead still has the taste of honey, which almost all of the other honey meads, all you taste is the alcohol. They ferment it a little bit too long, and ours is fabulous because of that taste of honey that is left in it.
So, Ray, Henry David Thoreau, I know you love Walt Whitman. I love Henry David Thoreau. He talks about a lot of people living lives of quiet desperation. And I meet people all the time who don't love the life they live, and they wish they could do something else. And you're living the life you want to live. And for someone that's struggling with making the leap to going for it and heading out after the life they want, what advice would you have for them?
Well, go for it. Get out there and just jump on it and do what you want to do.
Because
you don't have to decide what you want to do. Just go do things. And after you're doing it, you will decide the things you like to do.
That is so true. I know some people want a good plan. Like, don't have a plan, just get going. And then the plan will evolve and the universe will send the plan to you later. But you got to head out. That is so true. And so many people, they wait for a good plan and they wait and then they're dead and then they never did anything.
Some people overthink, overplan. Ray's got a good point. Just go do, learn, write your own story, make it happen.
Because you love the life you've built, don't you?
Well, yeah, it's the only life I have.
Well, Ray, it's been a delight, an absolute delight to me to have you in the podcast. I'm so glad I caught you at home. One of the few times in my world, in my head, that you're here, because in my world, you live on the road. But it's just been a delight, and I wish you guys all the continued success. And to all the Nehalem Bay Winery fans, I know that you guys listen to this podcast, love it as much as I do, and find it just great joy and delightful. And so all your fans, I know they've listened to this podcast and they were so excited to hear your voice, to hear your story. And I'm just so thankful for you coming on. I just want to say cheers to you. Oh, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Melissa, could I have a little bit more blackberry?
Sure. Let's get on that.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to say cheers to you, Ray, because you've helped create something, a number of things that are amazing nonprofit, a winery that has legions of fans, and you've brought a lot of people joy and meaning in their life. So cheers to you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right. Take care, everybody.